just looked up to her and I was like, dinosaurs? That seems pretty fake and gay.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Kingfisher, and today we have quite a bit to talk about, as you can probably tell. This video was originally going to be something much more different until my good friend Goldfish Mentality alerted me of the existence of this podcast episode from Jack Neal, which guest starred Candace Owens, a prominent right-wing political commentator. Now, if you've never heard of Candace Owens before, then God bless you, and I'm sorry for what you're about to watch. But before I continue, I want to make it clear that I'm not here to discuss Owens' politics or her religious viewpoints, because one, I don't care, and two, politics are fucking awful, and frankly, a bad business move on my part. Instead, I'd like to bring attention to this 6-minute segment of the episode where Owens tries to make the argument that dinosaurs are some sort of conspiracy made up by those in power to further destroy the concept of God in the modern world. I quit. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this shit show, or Corporalite show. That's a fossil poop. It's a poop joke.
I was just walking with Savannah, my manager, because we do like these little evening walks, and I just looked up to her and I was like, dinosaurs? That seems pretty fake and gay.
Ironically enough, the latter half of that statement is probably the most accurate thing that she says in this whole thing, because yeah, dinosaurs probably did practice homosexuality to some extent, much like modern animals and the people who made Squirrel Girl.
Like, it's funny because people will literally say they don't believe in God, but then tell them like dinosaurs aren't real and they fall apart. Because I got into and very much subscribe and believe and know to be true that there is a Christ conspiracy that's happening right now, which is the intentional removal of Christ because they want people not to believe in God, but instead to believe in humans.
So this is basically the seed from which the flower of her disbelief stems from, the idea that dinosaurs are manufactured by those trying to remove the image of God from our society as a part of some grand conspiracy theory. Now, I need you guys to understand something about me. I am a huge conspiracy theorist. I live and breathe this shit. MLK was killed by the FBI. The CIA 100% helped Lee Harvey Oswald in killing JFK. Aliens, Bigfoot, giant government cheese caves. This last one isn't even a conspiracy. It's real. So I can confidently tell you that this disbelief in dinosaurs is what we in the culture, in the schizo culture, refer to as a shitspiracy, meaning it's garbage. Other shitspiracies include the moon landing having been faked, the flat earth theory, and Canada. That being said, there's like over 700 species of known dinosaur, with several hundred more that we probably haven't discovered yet or have been lost to time. There are even more species of extinct animals that don't qualify as dinosaurs, like proto-mammals, pterosaurs, and fucking fish. The people propagating this supposed conspiracy theory would have to carefully and meticulously construct anatomically accurate creatures using nothing but brain power before putting the manufactured fossils into the dirt and waiting patiently for paleontologists to find them in some sort of sick scavenger hunt. I promise you, it's not happening.
There was no concept of a dinosaur until 1850. That's very recent, right? That's the first time they were like, we actually think that there were these reptiles that are roaming the planet, and then within that same decade, they were like, dinosaur bones.
The first dinosaur fossil that was officially scientifically described belonged to a megalosaurus and was discovered in 1824, so this is just blatantly untrue. Not to mention, there were technically concepts of dinosaurs before that period of time. You might know them. They're called dragons. People most likely found fossils and figured that they belonged to giant monsters, so hey, now we have dragons from literally every culture that exists on Earth.
I started finding them everywhere. I'm like, okay, so nobody found this, and then like suddenly there's entire museums and...
Yeah, so there's literally a name for this, and it's referred to historically as the Great Dinosaur Rush. At some point after the word dinosaur was coined in 1842, like some 18 years after Megalosaurus was discovered, fossil hunters basically took to the wilderness like they were in the Great Pirate era and raced to make as many discoveries as possible in the pursuit of scientific recognition. And these guys were ruthless. I mean, it got so bad that two specific paleontologists started having beef with each other, and this shit was like legitimately generational. It makes Kendrick versus Drake look like two toddlers arguing over shapes on a fucking playground. In times of discovery, people are quick to want a piece, and dinosaurs are no different.
In China, they have actually been caught manufacturing dinosaur bones many times over.
China has incredibly strict laws when it comes to the export of their fossils, and because of this, bootleggers begin to craft their own to sell, as they can't get jailed for exporting quote-unquote fossils that aren't actually fossils. It is a huge issue in the scientific sense because it muddles up the legitimacy of genuine fossils, but it is absolutely not a part of some grand scheme to trick the general public. These are literally just con men being con men for nothing more than profit.
And it is the case that dinosaur bones, for whatever reason, are always just found by the paleontologists. Like, it's not like you and me walking outside. I'm like, hey, a dinosaur bone.
Literally, the first result that I got on Google was a story about a dad in North Dakota who was hiking with his 2 sons and found the remains of a Tyrannosaurus. And it took me like 4 or 5 seconds maximum. Argentinosaurus was found after like a farmer accidentally stumbled onto it. Iguanodon was discovered by 2 miners, not those kinds, while they were working in a mine in Belgium. I live in Florida, dude. Like, it's literally made of limestone. I could take my ass outside for 5 minutes and find a fossilized shell from some ancient clam. It is not hard to do. And construction workers find fossils accidentally like all the time, so much so that there is actually legitimately a profession as a specialization as a paleontologist, in which you go to construction sites after they have found fossils and you kind of delegate how things proceed from there. Like, it is an actual specialty. That is how often this stuff happens accidentally. It isn't just paleontologists. But you know why paleontologists find the most fossils? When you're actively searching for something physical, like a fossil or like a dinosaur bone, your chances of finding it are much higher.
Well, they want you to believe that God isn't real, that like the theory of evolution, like you're an ape. What happened was just over time, like you used to be a little chimpanzee, but then with time, this is why you learn about theory of evolution, Homo sapien, Australopithecus, but then we were Homo erectus. And so when you speak to people that are super rational out of school, you're like, well, the evolutionary theory makes sense. So it makes sense to you that you started as a chimpanzee. Like, that's a faith, buddy.
Yeah, so this argument would go pretty hard if you've never read a dictionary before and you don't know what words mean. The word theory in the theory of evolution means that it is based on real, tangible evidence that we can draw conclusions from. The word faith, on the other hand, in the most literal sense, refers to believing in something regardless of whether or not there's any proof. It is purely spiritual in a religious context. Evolution would be a faith if we didn't know anything about homology, vestigial structures, if we knew nothing about embryonic development, but because we very clearly do, it's much more than just a faith. Look, I'm not gonna sit here with like a straight face and say that modern society never mocks or disrespects God or whatever, but I guarantee you dinosaurs and evolution are nowhere near the same level as like Doja Cat and other celebrities dressing up like demons and doing shit that would make a Puritan child from the 1630s self-destruct. One of these is a legitimate social phenomenon that should be talked about far more often, and the other is just people discovering shit from the past. That is quite honestly all that is at play here.
You have a creator. No. Evolutionary theory is real, actually. What happened was a meteor hit, and I don't know, like the meteor hit and wiped out the dinosaurs, but then like the lizards came. I don't even really, when you get down to even just thinking about that, you're like, okay, so it wiped out the dinosaurs. And then what happened? They're like, well, then the amoeba was around, but then like little lizards are from that. I actually don't I have a lot of questions. I wish I was in 6th grade again.
Candace, sweetheart, you live in the age of information. Everything that you have said, I have refuted with like a quick Google search. There is nothing on this earth stopping you from just learning about this stuff yourself, which ultimately is where these kinds of beliefs come from. It's just ignorance. It is willfully disregarding tangible facts in favor of one's own personal beliefs or preconceived notions. And it's honestly kind of sad because Candace Owens will probably never get to know how cool Spinosaurus and Suchomimus are.
Because they tell us all this stuff, like dinosaurs are like when you're in 2nd grade, and guys are like, yeah, guys are the hardest about the dinosaur. They are dinosaur stands.
I love dinosaurs growing up.
I know, boys love it. It's like a culture.
Because we're autistic.
But it is interesting that like they kind of drop it after 2nd grade. Like they take you to the Natural History Museum, and then there's no more talk about dinosaurs like later on in school.
Does she think paleontologists just like sit around and suck toes all day long? I don't understand.
Like I would have a lot of questions now if I was sitting in 2nd grade and they were like in a great big meteor hit and then all the dinosaurs went away. I would be like, oh, okay, but then what happened?
The entire Cenozoic happened. And guys, listen, I don't make this video because I think science is perfect, that it's this sort of end-all be-all. It's really not. Science is ever-changing, and researchers often tend to agree with whoever is funding them 99% of the time. I'm not saying not to question things. On the contrary, question literally everything, and as often as you can, think three-dimensionally. But dinosaurs are an objectively provable truth. It isn't a faith. It isn't some conspiracy theory made up by the billionaire class to steer people away from God. They are simply animals that existed far longer than the first human was ever even a thought. Then they go on to speculate about whether or not Michelle Obama is like actually a man in disguise, which in my opinion is obviously like absolutely ridiculous. I mean, just look at this picture. Like, look at it. Of course he's a man. How do they not see this? But that's about all that I wanted to say in regards to this lovely episode. There were some other topics discussed, but I mostly care about the dinosaurs. I'm not about to sit through like an hour of this. On a serious note, I do not believe that Candace Owens is stupid. Not completely, at least. She, like many other dinosaur deniers, are simply ignorant. They are speaking from a place of ignorance and generally have no idea what they're talking about because they often ask themselves these pseudo questions that can be very easily answered by one or two searches on the internet. So at the end of the day, dinosaurs are very much real. I'm schizophrenic and Canada doesn't exist. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hey, if you want to see me make more content of this nature, then, you know, leave a comment, like, subscribe if you want to. I want to try and make it to 20,000 subscribers before the end of the year, so we'll see how that pans out. Quick reminder that I am still collecting questions for the 10,000 subscriber special Q&A, so if you have any that you would like to leave, go ahead and drop them in the comment section below, and I'll try to have that out for you guys as soon as possible. Bye-bye.